All right. We got 2 for 2. I feel bad for Joe Carter. He's going to hit it out of the park, though. Founder and CEO at Twinflame Group. We are blessed to have him here and discussing how to scale businesses. And this is right up our alley. Joe Carter, welcome to episode 771 or so of Office Hours. We've had a lot of these episodes. Scaling has always been a critical business issue of the show that we've talked about in utilizing growth, obviously. But you talk about it in the context of culture. And I love to tell people all the time when I'm coaching them and being overpaid, unlike Rhett, who's underpaid. When I'm overpaid as a coach, I tell them you don't work for a company, you work for a culture. And I think more and more people are getting what I've been talking about for a decade. How important is the culture aspect in scaling a business?
Thank you for having me on, first of all, David. 771 or whatever number, that's just crazy ridiculous. So thank you. And Rhett, it sounds like we might need to work on your compensation, my friend. But to get into your question, why is culture so important to a company? Because ultimately, culture is the company. People are the company. They're the one that serves your clients or your customers. If you're doing it all by yourself, then you're not a company. You're like a salesperson, right? So as a leader, we have to dive into that culture, lean into it, understand that culture is what drives impact and ultimately what drives valuation, because your brand cannot stand on your shoulders if you're looking to exit for any level of a multiplier that's worthwhile. It has to be able to run without your LinkedIn profile having to be attached to it. And that's culture right there.
So smart.
Yeah, that's spot on. What role do you think accountability plays in building a good culture? And have you seen good accountability systems really make a difference in that culture and in the success of a business?
Absolutely. In fact, accountability is one of our 4 frameworks that we leverage, the 4 modus operandi, when we evaluate a business. So it is absolutely one of the most critical things that you can do. And in terms of one of the best examples of that, going from 0 to 100, in my opinion, is one of our clients actually installed an accountability system on a weekly cadence where every leader of every department had to show up, and they each had 30 seconds where they had to say what they did last week, what their goal is this week. And every single week they went through that cadence. And in order to get that type of cadence, it was something that took a little bit of pre-work to accomplish. But oh my gosh, in 90 days, their evaluation went from 3.4 to 7.2 and added over $15 million of valuation simply by adding accountability.
Wow.
You know, I've listened to your podcast, and one of the things that I think about is a lesson about scalability, and it's in the aspect of intention that people limit their self-image. And they'll never overachieve that self-image or their imagination. And it could be Rhett's power, why he's, undercharges people. It could be you could help him with that. Although I think he's an amazing coach. I think he's undercharging everyone. So if you want to bargain, sign up with Rhett Powers now before Joe helps him. Get locked in, because he grandfathers you in. So make sure you call him right now at Rhett Power. But truthfully, how, in the respective mindset, do you help people when you see that they are limiting their self-image? What are some of the aspects of getting people to believe that they could have 100 stores or grow 7 times EBITDA or whatever they're limiting themselves with?
Yeah, I mean, believing is seeing, not seeing is believing. You have to believe it in your mind. You have to adjust that mindset before you can accomplish anything. So if you want a 7 times business valuation, you got to first believe you can do it. And then you work backwards from there to determine what your steps are to accomplish it. So it is all a mind shift switch. Woo, I almost said something that wasn't good there. A mind shift swift that you have to accomplish. It's kind of like what Merrick was talking about a minute ago. Like there's 4 personalities, right? There's a method to each of those personalities to enhance them, to understand them, ultimately to lead someone else. And that the same is applicable for you. You lean into your personality, you understand what shift you need to make, and you begin with the end in mind.
Well, Rhett Power, you are full of shifts. And we all know what I am. That tongue twister will tell you specifically. Anyway, Rhett, bring us home from this fantastic episode.
Well, really the last question I'd have is, I've got a book coming out in October about team talk and about how when you show up as a leader and you have negative self-talk, it actually impacts your culture. It impacts your team's productivity. Have you seen any examples? I'm just always curious to talk to people who work with a lot of different types of companies. Have you had to work on like a leader's sort of internal dialogue before? And have you seen sort of evidence of that?
100%. I've seen it very recently with the client actually who was extremely introverted, not very talkative, would walk into the room on a leadership meeting with his head down, would very rarely ever make eye contact with his team. So ultimately I had to pull him aside and say, like, let's figure this out. What's your like go-to workout music? Because he was a big like workout wellness type buff. And so he played a couple of his songs for me. And I was like, why don't you just listen to this right before you walk into the room? Get yourself jazzed and understand the most important thing of a leader is to walk slowly through a room with your team. You got to make eye contact with every single one of them, shake their hand, make them feel like the most important person in the room, because ultimately they are. They're the one that's going to go execute your strategy when you leave. Yeah. So they have to be the most important one. And if you walk in with that mindset, a little bit of hype right beforehand, it's amazing what will happen. And I hear all kinds of best practices and success stories from the team, not the leader, post changes of that.
Wonderful.
He's the author of Driving, Not Surviving, keynote speaker at so many different events, hosts 3 popular podcasts as far as what I know, Built on Grit, which I love, the Franchise Growth Show, which Jeff Fenster loves, and Lead, Manage, and Thrive, which Rhett loves. He has almost 100,000 downloads on those, so he knows what he's doing. The content he has helped so many over decades and helping to generate over $500 million in client revenue. Joe Carter reminds me of the other Joe Carter. He's hitting it out of the park with the Twinflame Group. Joe, promise us you'll come back. We'd love to see you anywhere, anytime. You're always welcome. Great insights. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on, and I'm going to come to New Jersey so we can meet in person.
Oh, that is awesome. Right on. And we'll do a podcast swap. Pick your favorite podcast. We'll do a swap together.
Let's do it, man. I'm ready.
You got it. I know you are. It's culture, not company, and he's the leader to help with systems, to help all of us with practical steps for strategic growth. He has the blueprint to success. Joe Carter, we look forward to seeing you next week in Jersey. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
That's awesome.
Take care. Yeah.